There are so many options when it comes to speedlights, but what do you do if you just need a simple on-camera flash that does TTL that doesn't break the bank? Hey all there guys, welcome back to the channel. As ever, it is amazing to see you. So really exciting times. I've just broke like the 800 subscriber mark, so I'm super excited, and like from there the next benchmark is 1,000 obviously. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, now would be a great time to do it, and I will sporadically keep on making videos, and also I do requests. So I play no illusion to it, I am a massive Sony fanboy and have been a Sony fanboy since day dot. The first camera I ever got was a Sony. It was a Nex 5, and then I went to an Alpha 58, and then an Alpha 77, then went to the A7. I still have my A7 now, and then I went to the A7R2, which is what I'm filming on, and I haven't had any need to change really. But in that process of moving through bodies, I got to a point where I had to start, understanding how to use flash. And when it comes to flash, there are a lot of options, okay? So first starting point will obviously be speedlights, I'd imagine. If you've never had any experience with flash, the first light you will probably come across will either be a speedlight or an LED panel. Now, LED panels are great, but they won't have the punch that a speedlight will generally have. And most photographers early on in their career, they will tend to probably shoot events and weddings and things like that, and because of that you need something that's fast, powerful and cost effective. So when it comes to Sony, there are a huge range of options of speedlights, and they will all have different functionalities and different capabilities. But if you just want a very basic on-camera flash that will give you the ability to illuminate a subject, a little bit better than just using the camera's ability, where do you go? Well, that's where this guy comes into it. So this basically is a Kenra KFL 102, and it's a very simple on-camera flash. Now they do these for Fuji, they do them for Canon, they do them for Nikon. This is the version that works for Sony. Now it's a very basic on-camera flash. It does come with a foot. Now that's because it has a slave functionality, which means if there is another flash nearby, this will trigger this. Now you have no way of remotely controlling it, you have to input it all manually, and the other flash triggers it. So that's what slave mode is. Now if you're not using slave mode because you haven't got to the point of using a multiple light setup, this just goes on your camera. And I have got my A7 over there, so I'm going to stick it on and show you. So it comes in this great little carry case, it's got a foot. It also has a diffuser as well, so that plugs on there, and that's also going to make the light a little bit softer and spread the light around a little bit better, because just using this, we all know the basic rule of lights, and if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, the smaller the surface of the light source in relation to the subject, the harder it is. So this is going to create very harsh shadows if you fire it directly at the subject. If you were to bounce it at a ceiling or bounce it at a wall, obviously that's going to hit the wall, it's going to create a larger light source in relation to me, and it therefore becomes a softer light. So there's just some little tips you can use to get more from this. So say for instance you are starting out as an event photographer and you just want to bring a little bit more light to the party to make your images a little bit better. What do? Well, grab your Sony, that slides into there like so, clips on, and we're cooking. We now have the ability to add more punch to our images because we've got more available light. In terms of the options we have, on the menu system, we have a multiple flash. So this is going to give me the ability to fire multiple times. Now how would you use that? Say for instance you was in a nightclub and you wanted to create the effect of movement, so rather than having this blurred and then the subject stopped, you could use this multiple flash system to have multiple exposures of the subject, and it creates quite a cool effect. Now to have that on a flash or a speedlight that's less than £100 is pretty impressive. So that's just one of the modes that there are on there. You also have slave, and that's where I said if there is another speedlight that fires in close proximity, this will then fire. What you would have to do in that scenario is use the foot, set it up where you wanted to, on a tripod, on the stand, whatever, program in the settings, do a test fire, and all of a sudden you can start using multiple light setups, which is amazing. So if you buy 2 of these, you've then got a multiple light setup. It isn't wirelessly controllable, but it's still a lot better than what you'd be able to do just with the camera on its own. Another mode you have in there is slave 2. And then you have TTL. So TTL, if you do not know what TTL is, TTL is through the lens. It is effectively auto for flash. So say for instance you're in manual mode. At the moment my shutter speed, I'm going to drop it down to 100 of a second. I'm gonna really open up my shutter, so open up my f-stops on 1.8, and my ISO is 100. Now what this is gonna do, as I fire, there's a pre-flash. That flash comes back, the camera and the speedlight work together to determine what is the right exposure. Then it takes the actual picture and fires the right exposure to make sure you get relatively good exposures. And that's how it works. It's really simple. So if you haven't played around with flash and you're a little bit terrified by the idea of starting to use speedlights, you want to look for a speedlight that has TTL. This chap has TTL, and as I said, it's less than £100 in most places in the UK, which is amazing. If you go and buy a Yongyong or something like that, which is speedlights I used to use, you will only have manual control. And that basically means you're going to have to do a lot of test shots to try and work out what's what. And the problem with that is, as soon as anything changes, you know, say for instance you want to change your depth of field, or you move around and there's more ambient light in one place, all of a sudden you have to change the manual exposure again. As you get more skilled, that's the best thing to do, obviously, but early on in your career it's best to kind of, you know, make things as easy for yourself as possible so you don't get stressed out, and it's, you know, very easy, and it makes you feel more confident in being a photographer, because the last thing you want to do is be massively intimidated and never want to use flash ever again. So TTL is a great way to start. Then from there, other modes you have is obviously manual mode, which we discussed about. So manual mode gives you the ability to increase or decrease the level of power. Now you think, why would I need to use that? Say for instance, you know, wanted to use a multi-point light setup. You have one of these set on the camera, one set behind. This is effectively going to be your key. The other one's going to be your kicker. This is going to need to be more powerful than the kicker. So you would use the manual exposure mode, making sure this is more powerful than the kicker, and that's going to give you a better look towards the image. So as you slowly build up your skill with using flash, of course, move into manual. All of this in a speedlight, as I say, under £100. Super impressive. Obviously I'll put a link down for this product down below, so if you are stuck for finding a speedlight for your Sony, go and grab one of these. It will not do off-camera flash, do bear that in mind, unless you have a master flash. So don't buy it thinking you can go and do multiple setups without a wireless trigger. That's something you probably want to build to later on in your career. Now not only that, the next thing this has from here, it also has a modeling light. Now there's a couple of different ways you can use this. You can use this for video. One of the ways I would particularly use this is, say for instance you are an event or a nightclub photographer like I am. In low light situations, sometimes Sonys can struggle to find the subject, okay? So what you basically want to use is use this to create a little bit of an illumination on your subject, therefore making it easy for the autofocus to find the subject. And it's not massively blinding, it's not hugely blinding. You don't have to have it on all the time, only in situations where you're struggling to find the subject. And all you do, push a button, and there you go, you go on, take your shot. Let's just move it back to TTL or manual or whatever it is. We've got loads of light here, so it doesn't really work. There we go, we are cooking on gas. So highly recommend this, and I thought I'd make the video very quick and short, and I've probably gone over loads because let's face it, I love to chat. But yeah, early on in my career I got stuck for Sony flashes. Don't get stuck. This is a very simple and cost-effective solution so you can start getting to grips with flash, because the camera's capacities are amazing, but they will always reach a point where they're going to need light, and that is one of the core principles of being good at photography. So if you can start integrating light in a less daunting manner and you can master it with this, then you can start looking at integrating multiple different, you know, speed lights that use wireless flashes and things like that. But don't do this first, because you'll end up getting massively intimidated and won't want to go back to it. So well worth starting here, build yourself up and progress a little bit later. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I said, I'm now just over 800 subscribers. I cannot wait till I get to 1,000. So if you enjoyed this video, please share it, hit subscribe, and I will see you all again soon. Take care, bye bye.